What if the next great Islamic awakening didn't emerge from Cairo or Istanbul, but from the shadow of the Kremlin's red walls? Picture this: March 2025, Moscow. 3 million Muslims kneel on frozen cobblestones where Soviet tanks once paraded, their collective breath rising like steam in the -20 degrees Celsius dawn. At the pulpit, Imam Ravil Gainuddin's voice cracks as he leads the largest Eid prayer in European history. And watching silently from the front row, a stone-faced Vladimir Putin, the man who once crushed Chechen rebels, now stands guard as Islam reclaims Russia's heart. This is no coincidence. This is geopolitical lightning in a bottle. For 70 Soviet years, Islam survived in Russian basements and mountain caves. Stalin's bulldozers had erased 90% of mosques. The KGB paid informants for every Quran found. Yet in Tatar villages, grandmothers still whispered ayat while canning pickles. In Grozny's ruins, boys learned hadith alongside bomb-making. Then came Putin's gamble. Needing Muslim soldiers for Syria and leverage against the West, he unleashed a calculated Islamic renaissance. 25 million faithful suddenly worth more than oil. Mosques sprouted like mushrooms after rain, from Sochi's Olympic Park to Siberia's prison towns. But was this true faith or just another KGB op? The answer would come on that frozen Eid morning. The Kremlin war room smelled of stale coffee and ambition that November night. On the table, satellite images of Red Square with troop-style deployments marking prayer row formations. Putin's finger tapped the exact spot where he'd stand, close enough for cameras to catch his solemn nod during takbir, far enough to avoid actually kneeling. 11 minutes, he told the FSB director. That's all Islam gets on my square. The spymaster's pen froze mid-air, not at the sacrilege, but at the calculation. They'd rehearsed this moment since the 2012 Pussy Riot scandal, when the Orthodox Church's credibility cracked. Now, Islam would be Putin's new moral shield. State TV crews received unprecedented orders. Shoot the crowd like a military parade, emphasizing symmetry and scale. Drones were programmed to avoid close-ups of bearded young men, potential extremists, and focus on photogenic grandmothers in Soviet-era headscarves, acceptable traditionalism. FSB agents, some fresh from suppressing mosque protests in Nizhny Novgorod, were given prayer rugs and crash courses in Muslim-looking behavior. Allahu Akbar means God is great, not death to America, an exasperated instructor repeated to blank-faced operatives. Then dawn broke on Eid morning, and the script burned. The first anomaly came at 6:17 a.m. Chechen commander Aslanbek, who'd lost both legs to a Russian landmine in 2000, was carried to the square by his former enemies, 2 Rosgvardia officers who'd fought in Grozny. As the muezzin called, the trio's tears melted snowflakes on shared prayer rugs. State TV director Arkady screamed into his headset, "Cut to Putin! No, not the cripples!" But TikTok user at Tata Queen, 3.2M followers, had already live-streamed the moment with the caption, "Allah unites what men divide." By 7:45 a.m., the Kremlin's choreography unraveled completely. Bashkir babushkas ignored FSB minders to stuff honey-soaked chak-chak into the hands of curious Orthodox children. A group of Dagestani MMA fighters formed a human chain around elderly Jewish spectators, shielding them from the crushing crowd. Everywhere, smartphones captured what state media couldn't: genuine joy cracking through the performative unity. Then came the viral pivot no algorithm could have predicted. At precisely 8:03 a.m., as Imam Gainuddin invoked the Prophet's PBUH teachings on mercy, Putin's left shoulder twitched. A single snowflake landed on his eyelash. The world held its breath. Was the icy strongman blinking back tears? The truth was banal, a stray cinder from a nearby heater. But the meme birthed in that moment, #Snowflake Putin, became Russia's most shared image since Gagarin's spaceflight. By noon, the global narrative had mutated beyond control. Al Jazeera hailed Putin's conversion. Fox News warned of Eurabia's Red Dawn. In Grozny, Kadyrov's Instagram showed him kissing the screen of his gold-plated iPhone displaying Putin at prayer. But the deepest cut came from an unexpected quarter, Mecca. Saudi cleric al-Sudais, who'd once called Russians godless invaders, now praised their spiritual maturity. The ultimate irony? Moscow's stock market closed up 3% on Gulf investment rumors. Back in the Kremlin, Putin sipped tea laced with Crimean honey as aides presented the day's metrics. 82% domestic approval, 37 million global social media impressions, and, most crucially, 0 arrests. The strong man allowed himself a thin smile. His calculus had been flawless. By surrendering 11 minutes of pavement, he'd bought Russia a generation of Muslim loyalty. Or had he? As the call to Maghrib prayer echoed from the newly reopened Moscow Central Mosque that evening, the Imam's final dua included an unscripted line, "O Allah, guide all leaders to justice, even those who think they guide themselves." The cameras this time were nowhere near. The geopolitical earthquake hit within hours. Erdogan pledged a new Moscow-Istanbul axis, while Washington panicked over abandoned NATO bases in Central Asia. But the real revolution was inside Russia itself. Young Slavs like Svetlana, a former Moscow club promoter, began converting after seeing Eid's discipline dwarf May Day parades. They moved as one organism, she told Al Jazeera, like they'd unlocked some ancient power. Yet shadows lingered. That same week, FSB raids shuttered 12 extremist mosques in Tatarstan. A Dagestani journalist who questioned the Kremlin's motives vanished after tweeting about Saudi-funded madrasas. The message was clear. This Islamic revival had red lines, and Putin held the pen. Behind the glittering minarets and viral images of interfaith harmony, a far more ruthless transformation was underway, one that would redefine power in the 21st century. Ramzan Kadyrov's faith patrols rolled through Russian cities in black armored Land Cruisers, their green banners fluttering with Quranic verses as they inspected nightclubs and liquor stores. In Kazan, 73-year-old vodka distributor Mikhail Ivanov woke to find his warehouse spray-painted with a single word in Arabic, haram. When Orthodox bishops protested, Putin quipped, "The Tsars had Muslim generals before they had electricity." Yet for all the pageantry, whispers spread of a grimmer calculus. With Europe's birth rates collapsing and China persecuting Uyghurs, Russia's Muslim boom might be Putin's last demographic weapon against the West. "They didn't break anything," he told investigators, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. "Just left this." He held up a business card for a halal investment firm offering transition assistance. The financial revolution proved even more audacious. Sberbank's new no-riba banking windows, manned by graduates of Chechen Sharia colleges, promised 0% interest loans with one catch, a 20% equity stake in Central Asian gas pipelines. "It's not profit, it's musharaka," explained a baby-faced banker in Grozny, his monitor displaying real-time fluctuations in Turkmenistan's reserves. European analysts gasped when Gazprom announced its first Sukuk bond issue would fund not just mosques, but hypersonic missile research. "The West sells arms to Saudis," shrugged a Kremlin spokesman. "We're just cutting out the middleman." Orthodox bishops thundered against this creeping Islamization, until Putin silenced them with a history lesson wrapped in a threat. "Who baptized Rus?" he asked at a closed-door meeting with the Patriarch, sliding across a faded 18th century engraving of Muslim Tatar soldiers guarding Peter the Great's palace. The unspoken message was clear. Russia's survival had always depended on its ability to assimilate the other, by choice or by sword. Yet the true masterstroke emerged in the demographic trenches. As Europe's birth rate flatlined to 1.5 children per woman, and China's Uyghur persecution backfired into global outrage, Russia's Muslim population quietly crossed 25 million, with a fertility rate of 3.2. In the Volga region, entire villages now echoed with the laughter of dark-eyed children named Mohammed and Aifa, while empty strollers gathered dust in Moscow's elite neighborhoods. "Every minaret is a missile silo," bragged a Duma member on state TV, immediately walking back his metaphor after online fury. But the most chilling development unfolded in plain sight. At military recruitment offices from Dagestan to Tatarstan, fresh-faced conscripts signed contracts under new headings, for Allah and the fatherland. Drill sergeants reported unprecedented morale. These boys fought not for rubles, but for paradise. When a leaked Pentagon memo pondered whether Russia was creating the first jihadist nuclear power, the Kremlin merely reposted it on Telegram with a laughing emoji. The West scrambled to respond. France banned shipments of halal meat to Russian enclaves in Kaliningrad, only to discover the cargoes were rerouted through Belarus with labels reading "Orthodox approved." Germany's intelligence services fretted over imams preaching in perfect German to Volga Tatar communities, until linguists realized they were Crimean Tatars exiled by Stalin, now reclaiming their ancestral tongue. Yet for all the geopolitical theater, the human cost remained hidden. In a Grozny basement, 22-year-old Medina scrolled past glamorous hijabi influencers on her phone while adjusting the bandages on her brother's back. lashes from a moral correction squad for smoking. "They tell us we're building God's kingdom," she whispered. "But where's the mercy?" Outside, the golden dome of the Ahmad Kadyrov Mosque gleamed under construction lights, its 100-meter minaret visible from every point in the city. A banner fluttered beneath it. "The future is faith." So, who really won? The grandmothers praying freely at last, or the strongmen who turned their faith into a geopolitical cudgel? Perhaps both. Because when 3 million prostrated where Lenin's mausoleum still stands, they proved something terrifying to the old world order. Culture moves faster than armies. The 21st century's superpower won't be born in Silicon Valley or Beltway think tanks. It's being forged right now, in the snow between a muezzin's cry and the Kremlin's silent nod. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time, remember, history's most dangerous revolutions begin not with gunfire, but with bowed foreheads on cold ground.